Today, I want to talk about the return on investment from our coach training. And I have to be honest, this is a topic that makes me feel quite anxious because I know that some people consider what I'm about to say an attack on the profession, and it isn't meant to be. But unless we can start having these honest, open conversations about a really big problem that our profession has, we're not going to overcome it. Pretending the problem doesn't exist isn't the way to overcome it. So, what is the problem? The problem is that as coaches, we spend a fortune on coach training, on mentor coaching if we're ICF, in fact, I know that we have other professional bodies, EMCC, AC, I could go on, but for the purposes of this live stream, I'm going to stick with ICF. So we pay for our coach training, which can cost anywhere from a couple of £1,000 to £25,000, depending on where we train and what qualification we train for. We then pay professional body membership. We may or may not have the mentor coaching included in our coach training package that we buy. If we don't, that's another sum that we need to pay. We need to pay to take our exams, and we need to pay for membership of a professional body. I can't remember whether or not I've said that. So we're running, even if we do it at the cheapest level, at the least expensive, we're running to several £1,000s. I know EMCC have supervision as a requirement for their designations. ICF have mentor coaching, and I suspect at some point supervision will come in too. So it's expensive for us. It's expensive. Now, one of the things that coach training doesn't teach us is how to articulate the value of coaching in a way that non-coaches can assimilate. Now, another way of saying that is how to find clients. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing, because the responsibility of a coach training organization is to teach us to become excellent coaches. And they do that really well, really, really well. The coaching businesses that fail very rarely fail because the coach can't coach or because they're a lousy coach. They almost always fail because the money doesn't work. Now, some coach training organizations do give what I call a nod towards what's euphemistically called business development. Now, in a lot of cases, that's to do with the admin. How you're going to look after your client notes, how you're going to look after your admin, your invoicing, your contracts. There's a lot of focus on the stuff that needs to be done around working with a client. There's very little done on where that client's going to come from. Now, I know that some coach training organizations do touch on where the client's going to come from, and some have like bolt-on bits that are I've seen once about £1,200, and it's a series of videos and workbooks. I've seen another that is like a business mastermind. I've seen another that's like in a circle community. It's a section of the community. It's about 40 videos, all about finding a niche and etc. And the reason I've seen these, by the way, is because coaches come to me and say, can I show you this? Do you think it's any good? I've bought this. This is what I'm doing. Or this is what I've been offered by my coach training organization. And sometimes it's coaches who've worked with us who've said, this has just been dropped. I'm really worried that it's not good enough. And this is what my colleagues from my coach training program are going to think is the right thing to do. And they're right, it isn't good enough. I wish coach training organizations would stay in their lanes and teach people how to be fabulous coaches and then signpost to proper accredited organizations like the Coaching Revolution. We're not the only one that's accredited, but like us, who teach client acquisition as a specialist subject, specifically client acquisition for coaches as a specialist subject. And the reason that I wish they'd do that is because a bunch of videos and workbooks that you work through on your own won't get you where you want to be. 40 odd short videos that talk about a niche being anxious professionals or overwhelmed leaders, it's nowhere near specific enough to be effective. And this is where coaches get the idea that marketing doesn't work because they've followed something for as long as they can sustain it. They don't really have anyone to ask, and it isn't going to work because it isn't good quality client acquisition. So I do know of a couple of companies, coach training organizations, one of which charges a real premium cost for its program, and the signposting that their clients got, and I'm talking about maybe a couple of years ago is the last time I heard, but the signposting that people have subsequently come and worked with me got is to somebody that sells 6 sessions of sales mentoring for £3,000 and a coaching directory. Now, even though we might think that what we need is sales training, selling assumes there is somebody to sell to. And if we think of the client acquisition process from them never having heard of us and having no idea what coaching is, to them having finished a coaching program with us, a sale is a single moment in that process, and it fits kind of around halfway through it. The piece that comes before that is marketing. Marketing is the bit that generates the interest. And for some reason, as an entire profession, we have a really dim view of marketing, and I find it astonishing. Some of our really esteemed academics are positively sneery about the idea of marketing. I saw a post from one academic where he said words to the effect of, if coaches spent half as much time and money perfecting their coaching than they do on silly marketing, that the world would be a better place. And I thought that was really disingenuous, because this is a guy who is sneering at coaches who are trying to make their coaching business work while simultaneously promoting the latest book he's edited or the latest webinar he's delivering. And somehow these academics don't see the hypocrisy in that. I'm calling it out. It's hypocritical. All businesses, not just coaching business, but every single business in the world needs to have a robust client acquisition process. You're not going to get a return on your investment unless you have a process for finding clients who can and will pay you a professional rate for your coaching. Now, whether that's organizations that are going to pay you or individuals that are going to pay you, you need a robust process. So in the absence of a robust process, there are all sorts of things that happen. And again, I have a kind of a level of anxiety around talking about this because we don't talk about it, because it's like the dark underbelly of the profession. So if we think about having to build hours to gain our qualifications, and again, if we just look at the ICF ACC, so to reach the ACC, there are all kinds of boxes you need to tick. But on the delivery side, you need to have delivered 100 hours of coaching, so 100 hours logged. 25 of those can be pro bono, and 75% of them should be paid. Now, if there was a full stop there and that was that, we'd struggle to reach that 100 hours. And so what we have instead is this whole kind of fudged thing where we have paid coaching, we have paid coaching, and we have reciprocal coaching. So paid coaching means the client pays you a fee. And I believe that fee should be a professional rate, not mates rates, not a tenner, not a discounted rate because frankly we're desperate to get the coaching hours in. Paid coaching, and this kind of really sticks in my throat, this whole concept of paid coaching. Paid coaching is where there is an exchange of value. Now, and again, I get my information from coaches that I talk to, as well as some of our professional bodies. Paid coaching, the exchange of value can be make sure the client buys the coffee. This is a person who's spent thousands on reaching a point at which we can become credentialed or earn our designation. And we're being told to coach for a cup of coffee. I had a really interesting conversation with a coach who had showed up to an introduction to a professional body webinar and had said, if the client makes a donation to a charity that equals a professional sum of money, does that count as paid? And the answer was no, it didn't, because the individual would have to give the coach the money and then the coach would need to make the charitable donation. But that adds in tax, revenue, it adds a whole level of complication that having the client simply pay the charity the donation avoids. So a cup of coffee counts, but a professional sum, kind of 125 to 150 pounds donated to a charity doesn't. And let's take this paid to a whole different level. There is an associate coaching company that sells coaching for cheap. Less than the price of a pizza was the kind of strap line at one point, although that disappeared after I called it out. That company is turning over multiple six figures a year, and their coaches deliver pro bono. Now, the reason that those coaches will deliver pro bono is because those hours count as paid by our professional bodies. I find that shocking. And I struggle to see the ethics in it. And yes, there might be some supervision provided. And yes, there might be a community provided. And yes, there might be a bit of confidence building going on there. But why can't all of that happen and they get paid? Why does the person who owns the organization get to keep the money when the service that they're selling is being delivered for free? I think it's exploitative. I know there are people who disagree with me, and I'm very happy to have the conversation, but from my perspective, I find it very uncomfortable and exploitative. So we resist the idea of spending money learning to market. That's one route that we will take when we've kind of finished our coach training and we're now building hours and kind of trying to work out where our clients are going to come from. Oh, hang on, before I talk about that, let me just step back and talk about reciprocal coaching. Again, I find this very uncomfortable. So the idea behind reciprocal coaching, as I'm sure you're aware, is that you coach a coach and they coach you. So for each 2 hours of coaching delivered and received, you can log an hour, the one you delivered, and that counts as a paid hour. If we take that to its logical conclusion, in theory, you can reach MCC, by only ever coaching other coaches reciprocally. Now, I appreciate that probably doesn't happen like that, but in theory, you could. So you could reach MCC without ever having to find your own clients. And that's not a bad thing, by the way. I mean, it would be a bad thing if you're building your hours entirely on reciprocal coaching, because that means you've never coached a kind of a normal person. You've only ever coached coaches. And as we are all aware, coaching coaches and coaching non-coaches is a very different experience. You know, the coaches understand the process. They know where you're going with this. They still benefit from the thinking, but the non-coach requires a lot more skilled input from the coach themselves. And somebody's going to jump in the comments and go, oh, some of the most difficult clients I've coached have been coaches. That may be, but you are the exception that proves the rule. In the main, from the hundreds of coaches that I talk to, they will all tell me that coaching coaches is completely different from coaching non-coaches. Now, to go back to what do we do when we're doing some reciprocal coaching, we're doing some paid coaching. The organization that lets people coach for free but sells the coaching, they have a waiting list for coaches who want to join them. That's how difficult it is for coaches to find clients without any formal training. It's so difficult that they're prepared to go on a waiting list to be allowed to deliver coaching for free. Just put that in the context of any other profession, and it simply wouldn't happen. So let's imagine that we are one of those coaches that we're now coaching for free as paid. We're doing reciprocal coaching. We're trying to build our hours. We're coaching for a cup of coffee. At what point do we think that that's magically going to change into coaching our own clients for a professional rate? Because the truth is, it isn't. The confidence that you're building is on the delivery side of your scales, not on the client acquisition side of your scales. And at no point will the clients that you're coaching for somebody else, that you're coaching as an associate coach, they won't become your clients, because undoubtedly stealing the associate organization's coaching clients is in your, not doing that will be in your contract. So what happens when we realize that this isn't going the way we thought it was going to go? None of us expected the clients to be lining up outside the coach training room's door, but we didn't think it was going to be impossible, or that we were only ever going to coach for, a cup of coffee or for free. We did think that there was a route to paying clients. So where do we go? Well, some coaches will be internal coaches, and they are employed to deliver coaching as part of the role. Okay, fine. Coaching jobs like that are few and far between, and the competition for them is fierce. The next kind of coaching where we don't have to find the clients is associate coaching. Now, once upon a time, we as coaches used to qualify, and then we could qualify reciprocal coaching, pro bono coaching, and paid coaching, and then we could go and work for one of the platforms, so BetterUp, Lyra, Ezra, Coach Hub, and we could make a reasonable living doing that. But over the years, the competition for those associate roles has become fierce. The number of coaches just from according to the ICF, that have qualified since 2019, I might be wrong in this, I'll check it out. I believe we have 54% more coaches now than we had in 2019. We're over 100,000, well over 100,000 qualified with that one body. And what that means is the coaching platforms, they don't have to pay a professional rate anymore. They can find people who absolutely will coach for as little as £25 an hour. And that figure has come from a coach that we work with, who is coaching for one of those platforms. And by the time she counts in the admin and everything she has to do around each client, she's getting about £25 an hour, which is not quite the fee we talked about when we were training, is it? Not at all. So if the work on the associate platforms is falling, There are other associate companies, by the way, that do pay a professional rate. Um, they tend to be kind of consulting firms who offer coaching as part of what they do. And if you can get work with one of those, good for you. Good for you. However, those roles are, again, fiercely competed for, and again, few and far between. So what do? We take another qualification. We think, I know, if I add this qualification to my toolbox, then I'll have even more value to offer to my potential clients, to my future clients. And here's a really hard truth. It is very hard indeed to offer value to clients you don't have. Ouch, right? So where am I going with this? I wish that as an entire profession, we were much more upfront about the fact that what we teach in our training courses, or what we are taught in our training courses, are delivery skills. And that if you want to build a business using those delivery skills, you are going to need an additional set of skills. Now, the reason that I don't like it, like I'm entitled to an opinion, but nevertheless, this is my opinion. I don't like it when coach training organizations bolt client acquisition on as kind of an extra bit. And the reason I don't like it is because, number one, client acquisition skills are 50% of the skills that you need in order to build a coaching business. And number two, coach training schools are the people who are running them are not out there building a coaching business. They're building a coach training business, and that's a very different skill. They are marketing to people who want to become coaches. And even the ICF are marketing to coaches. They're not doing our marketing for us. When I see the ICF will kind of write a post that says, this is what coaching is compared to mentoring, for example. And it'll get shared hundreds of times because coaches think, oh, this is what I want my potential clients to know, and they'll share it. Our potential clients don't want to hear about the difference between coaching and mentoring because they don't care. But those are our processes and they don't care. What our potential clients need to understand is the value in coaching for them in particular. And being able to articulate that value is what marketing is. Now, if you look at an organization like mine, like the Coaching Revolution, every single one of our mentors is an associate. You can't be a full-time mentor with the Coaching Revolution. You can only be an associate because part of the kind of the rules, if you like, of being a mentor with us is, number one, you have to have been through one of our programs. You have to be actively marketing your business, usually a portfolio business, and you have to continue doing that whilst mentoring for us as an associate, so that everyone that teaches on our programs is teaching from knowledge and experience as well as theory, and not just theory. And that is a massively important difference. If you would like to experience what it's like having some sessions with Coaching Revolution mentors, me in particular, but some of the other Coaching Revolution mentors too, can I invite you to join me for my Nail Your Niche challenge? The next one runs in September. It's 4 days. It's not 4 full days. You don't have to kind of diarize, 4 full days out of your normal life. It's a lot of thinking, but light touch on the engagement, on the time it's going to take. And across the 4 days, there will be a concept, a marketing concept, a client acquisition content dropped in, one concept a day for the 4 days. We look at who, we look at where they are, we look at money, and we look at what the problem is that coaching will help them resolve. Each day at 5 p.m. UK, I run a live session and some of our mentors attend. I answer questions from a list that people have added questions to all day, and the mentors answer questions in the chat, and we are all answering from the position of lived experience, not the theory of how to find clients, or the let's use our common sense, because the problem with common sense and intuition and logic is that marketing is not common sense. It's massively into counterintuitive. That's easy for me to say. And it's not logical. Logic says cast your net wide, talk to as many people as possible. That's not marketing. If you would like to join me for that challenge, and it's free, and it's 4 days of engagement, I will drop the link to join around this live stream after I've finished delivering it. The feedback that we get is always 95% positive. It's always, wow, I had no idea. I was thinking about this completely wrong. Why doesn't every coach know this? This should be delivered to everyone. This should be essential, etc. And including that the challenge gave somebody who spent $3,000 on 6 sales mentoring sessions. She said, your free challenge gave me far more insight into what I'm supposed to be doing than the $3,000 I spent on a sales mentor. If you would like some of that for free, do register, and I'll see you tomorrow for tomorrow's live stream. Yeah, still feeling anxious about this topic.